Picture this. It's your Super Bowl. And I don't mean the Super Bowl, like I'm a player in the Super Bowl. It is my Super Bowl, which is Thanksgiving Day at my home with my family, or in Spanish, la familia. And everything's going well because on that day, I cook like 7 different dishes. People are like, what can I bring? And I tell them to bring something that doesn't matter. Oh, you bring the rules. Oh, you bring a salad. No one wants a salad on Thanksgiving because it's my day. It's my Super Bowl. I'm the coach. I'm the player. I'm the ref. I'm Janet Jackson. And Kristen, don't laugh out loud. This is the cold open. You're not even on the screen yet. And on this day, 2024, my Super Bowl, everything was great. Stress was low. The turkey had been spatchcocked. And it comes to the mashed potatoes. Now, Mrs. Planner a few weeks earlier had made us a lovely dinner at home, and she made mashed potatoes. And I don't know how she made the mashed potatoes other than I go, these are amazing. And she said, they're frozen mashed potatoes from Trader Joe's. And I said, that would save me a lot of time on my Super Bowl. Grab 3 packs of them. So I had an experience with these frozen mashed potatoes for the very first time on Thanksgiving Day. They are pellets. They look like when you aerate your lawn. Dame, you're not on screen yet, but when you aerate your lawn, right?
Absolutely.
Little pellets. Start to heat them up. It took a while because they're frozen. On the package, it says it's going to take 8 to 12 minutes. We're at the 17-minute mark. And I'm like, they got to be good to go. Put all the dishes out to serve. People start to serve themselves mashed potatoes. They take their first bites. And as I welcome the rest of the crew to the show today, it was the texture and temperature of ice cream. So cold. I then took my infrared temperature gun and pointed out 36 degrees. I served 36 degrees mashed potatoes on my Super Bowl because Mrs. Planner made good mashed potatoes. And I said, I want these. And then I messed it up. So, Dame, the question is to you, as always. It's her fault, right?
No, you didn't turn the heat on, did you?
No, I did. It's just there were so many frozen pellets.
Get over it. Yeah. Okay.
Hello, everybody. We got Rick Swink. We got Tom, Dan, Andy. Hello, Cheryl, Jason, Quincy, and the Rev, Sarah Renfro. And I share a birthday, which was last Friday. And it was great. I'm old. Hello, Kristen.
Hello.
Kristen, I saw you this morning via video. And the first thing I said is, I love your hair. And you said thank you, and you did not return a compliment. And as we know, when one person compliments you, you can accept it. And as Midwesterners, you have to up the compliment with something more dynamic, and you did not.
You don't accept compliments. Why would I do that?
Moving on to Damian Dunn. How are you, my friend?
I'm wonderful. That sweater is amazing, Peter.
Thank you. I wore this sweater for a very specific reason. It is a pug and a scarf because the pug won the Westminster Kennel Dog Show.
Mm-hmm.
Vito the Pug was the champion of the year, and so this is in honor of that. Dan, thank you for the compliment. Now, for those joining us on the live stream, which if you don't join us on the live stream, number one, the pug visual sweater reference is lost on you, as is Kristen's okay hair. But I will also say that there's a 4th member of the program today, a set of a threesome. We have a foursome today, and that foursome involves none other than a person people call Dougie Deadlifts in his personal life. His name is Doug Collins. He's the vice president of product at Your Moneyline. Some call him the most interesting man in the world, and it's hard to disagree with that. And he joins us on the program today. Doug, welcome to the show before the show, which is a show within a show. Hello, Doug.
Hey, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Ooh, inauspicious start. Okay, so here's I'm just kidding. Doug is on the show for a very specific reason. Oh, Jeremy wants to know, do you ruck, Doug?
I do not ruck. Sorry, Jeremy.
But here's the thing, Dame, we've known Doug a long time. How does Doug not ruck?
I don't know. Deadlift, do you really have to ruck?
That's a good point. Doug recently hit the 1,000-pound mark once again on the 3 major lifts.
Oh boy.
Doug, give us your bench. What do you got there, buddy?
PR 267.
Oh, he could get
7.
Dame up. Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, the
Barely.
whole weightlifting crew is listening today, and they're gonna roast me after the show.
How about your
100%.
your deadlift is what?
PR 435,
Nice.
And your squat?
385.
Do the
But
math.
we're not here to talk lifting. Kristen, why is Doug here?
Doug is here because he's a Bitcoin enthusiast, and apparently we've hit 2,000 never.
Yeah. So Bitcoin hit $100,000 per coin on the 5th of December, maybe overnight on the 4th. I just know I woke up to a text yesterday morning from Doug saying, I'm on the show with a bunch of profanity. Doug, is that true?
That's partially true. You did wake up to a text from me, but there was no profanity.
Well, Dame, we are a bit of a crossroads as we start the program here in just a moment, as we're going to talk Bitcoin most of the show today. So, Dame, you and I, we're going to leave Kristen out of the decision for her own good. But, Dame, you and I are at a crossroads. Bitcoin is currently under $100,000. It is at $99,085.
Yeah.
So, do we go rain check here with Doug, or what do we do?
That would be the cruelest thing we've ever done to anybody if we were to pull the rug out from underneath them at this point. No, we have to soldier on.
I've been afraid that this was going to be a Jimmy Kimmel situation where it's like, oh, apologies to Matt Damon, we're out of time. Like, I've been waiting for that.
So, Doug, I don't know if you've ever watched the show or listened to the show or whatever, but this is the podcast part, and we're about to get into the radio part. Dame, I'm often accused, and Kristen, I'm often accused, especially in these hallways of your money line, of being a massive tease as it relates to news coming down the pike. Am I not?
Not
Yeah.
you.
And so I just want to say, in the coming weeks, there's going to be some really interesting stuff on this show. Look at Dave. He's so upset. Why don't you like that, buddy? It's true.
Okay. Sure.
The audience will grow significantly in the next couple of weeks. So that means we're going to have
Okay.
4
okay.
to
Sure,
5.
what are we talking about? Yeah. Okay.
Good thing we're having Doug on now. Okay. So, Doug, you sent me an agenda of things you wanted to talk about. I did not read it. So we will get what? What's wrong, Kristen?
I did not send an agenda.
Oh,
You sent me bullet points last night.
I just said, hey, I put a couple notes together and it falls into these 3 logical buckets. Take it or leave it, but here's how I think we could decompose the convo.
We may leave it. Let's
You
find
are-
out.
Chat GPT.
I did that, Kristen, not Chat GPT.
Fair
All right, Doug. Are we ready, kids?
Does he know how long the segments are? Or
Oh,
just-
Doug, let me tell you how the show works here. Do you have a timer in your booth there?
Sure.
he has a
Or a
phone.
phone.
I've got a phone.
You know what I could do? Do you guys want me to go live stream Doug broadcasting real quick on the feed?
Oh my gosh.
Let's do that.
You
Hold on.
guys.
Hold on a second. Hold on. This might work. Let's see if I can get this going. I won't be able to hear you, so Dame, you're going to have to do the stuff.
Okay.
Okay, hold on.
So
Hold
once
on.
again, Pete is abandoned.
Oh, yeah, I can hear you now. Hold on.
Oh, show host. Doug,
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. This is
question,
happening.
Doug. It's
Oh, boy.
922, 940, 940 are the segments. 922, 923, 940, 940. Pete will do a nice job of letting you know when it's going. But Pete is walking through the office. For those of you that are
Thank you, Dan.
on the live stream, if you're not and you're listening to the podcast, this is absolutely the worst podcast you've ever seen. And there he is. You're in what?
I'm in
today?
nickel.
Nickel.
I'm in the nickel booth.
Yeah, he's in there today. Pete is making his way back across the main floor, past our beautiful Christmas tree, and then into his office. He'll be hooked up again here really shortly. Kristen, is this the best possible podcast entertainment we could have delivered to somebody as the prototype show that somebody's going to be listening to determine if they want us on their platform?
We've all been fired.
What'd I miss?
I just was questioning whether or not this was the best version of the podcast we could have shared with somebody whether or not they wanted us on our platform, and the jury is out.
Well, now I see why you had me as the guest today, because if for some reason it doesn't get picked up by the new provider, I'm the fall guy. Now I got it.
Okay, let's Doug, this is a 9-minute and 22-second segment.
Yeah,
So if when you're going, just try to keep an eye on the screen, because if I give you the old wrap it up like this,
Yep.
that means you got to like tighten it down.
Land the plane.
Land the plane. Oh, Dougie Deadlifts gets a call out in the chat.
Oh my gosh.
Look at
Oh
that.
boy.
Hi, Carol. Okay, let's see what happens. Magic in 3, 2, 1. This week on the Pete the Planner Show, we answer your money questions. Here's how the show works. You email us, askpete@petetheplanner.com. That's askpete@petetheplanner.com. And here's what might happen. We just might answer your question on the air. And if your question over the last few years is, when will Bitcoin reach $100,000 per coin? Well, we have an answer for you today. And that is why the entire episode, to some degree, is dedicated to understanding Bitcoin. This is something we don't talk a lot about on this show. It is, I will say still controversial in nature. And so Dame, Kristen, and I typically don't talk about it. Hello, Kristen, you're here as well.
Yeah. Hi.
Dame is here. Hello.
Good day.
So Dame and Kristen, you and I have the great fortune of working with a colleague who is a Bitcoin enthusiast. And within the last couple of years, we made the promise that when Bitcoin crested $100,000 per coin, we would have him on the show to talk about his excitement and how Bitcoin works. This gentleman's name is Doug Collins. He's from Vigo County, Indiana, by birth. Now lives in central Indiana. Hello, Doug.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Doug is a vice president of product at Your Money Line, which is a company that all of us work. Kristen, when you saw that Bitcoin was trending up recently, post-election specifically, we knew this day was coming, did we not?
We did. There have been many messages exchanged and screenshots of Bitcoin prices, especially in the last few weeks.
And Dame, anytime a security or currency or whatever Doug's going to call it here in a second tends to go up significantly in a short period of time, and then you talk about it, it makes it feel like you're recommending that security or currency. Can you help us understand whether today is investment advice or not?
As always, the general rule is, kids, this is for education and entertainment purposes, not investment advice, nor guarantees on future performance.
Doug, let's talk Bitcoin. What in the world is digital currency?
Yeah. Well, hey, I'd love to start at the beginning just to set the stage here. So on October 31st, 2008, a person people under the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto released this white paper, and the title of the white paper was Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. And really what it is this, as it says, a peer-to-peer system that completely eliminates banks and other financial institutions as an intermediary to lending, borrowing, or making payment for goods and services.
So it's like Venmo or PayPal without the banks being on either side of the peer-to-peer transaction.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So Dame, I'm hearing this, and I'm thinking, even if I were to hand you cash, let's say you had a goat, I wanted to buy your goat, so I give you the going rate, which I believe is $38 or so. I buy your goat. That cash is still, it is a currency, but it's backed by the United States government. And so this Bitcoin, Dame, is different than that.
Yeah, full faith and credit of the United States government for good old greenbacks. Bitcoin, I don't know.
Yeah, so Doug, someone has to find value in this made-up robot currency of yours, right?
Yeah, that's right. I think it'd be helpful if we go back. Maybe we should start with the why. And I think the why might inform some of the questions and understanding. So can I run through like why Bitcoin, why digital currency?
Yeah, of course.
So I think the first thing whoever this Satoshi is, we still don't know. A lot of people have claimed to be Satoshi and they're not. But there were a list of 5 or 6 things that really motivated the creation of Bitcoin. And the first one was the systemic failures we saw from the banking and financial industry. And, in 2008, we had these mortgage-backed securities that were bundled up and sold, and we knew they were toxic assets after the fact. So that was one of the motivating factors. I think the second one is all of the fees that banks charge. Like, they charge an incredible amount of fees, and that makes up for a lot of the revenue that these banks make. So, for example, like according to consumerfinance.org, in 2019, banks and credit unions that had more than $1 billion in assets made $15.5 billion just based on overdraft fees and insufficient fund fees.
So can I pause real quick?
Yeah.
I got first one resume. Kristen, the first one makes sense, right? The first thing is the stability of the banking industry. That was scary. I know that you are younger than I am, but even in 2008, did you have some anxiety during the housing meltdown?
I always have anxiety, but
That's
yes,
a good point.
I did.
Dame, the second one, fees. I'm not saying I don't buy it, but and we all know there are banking fees, but there's also a lot of free banking services that we get on a regular basis. Do you think we're into swipe fees now? Do you feel like we're in credit card transaction fees? Like, what do you think are the fees that we're talking about?
Yeah, it could vary. Fees, if we're really thinking about this on a macro scale, I mean, how would this impact the bottom line of businesses across the country who are sacrificing somewhere between 1.5% to 3% of every transaction towards paying for credit card swipe fees? So if there was a medium of currency that could come in and say, you don't have to worry about that, that can make significant difference to the revenue generated or revenue retained by businesses all across the country. So it could be a there as well.
Yeah. So Doug, so that's to say, if you and I do a transaction together and I sell you something, I'm then getting, instead of 97% of that, I'm getting 100% of that. And that matters, especially with the size of the transaction. So that's number 2. What's number 3?
That's right. Number 3, I think, is the one that the 3 of you are really going to resonate. And it's the fact that centralized banks exclude a lot of people from banking. So when you look at people who live in underbanked or unbanked regions of the world, I say the world intentionally. This obviously was not created just for the United States. But when we look at the U.S., like 1 in 4 adults who make $25,000 or less per year are completely unbanked. So whoever this Satoshi is, they wanted to create a system that included everybody, sort of democratized the ability to transact.
All right, Kristen. Again, I'm not trying to be to find fault with this, but I think to understand it is to try to at least poke holes in it. Do you feel like the unbanked are using Bitcoin?
See, that's where I kind of fall short, is like, that's the argument, but is that the person who's out there buying and using Bitcoin? I feel like the answer is no, but maybe I just don't have enough exposure. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, Doug, again, the reason for starting this whole digital currency thing, there could be motivations, some more important than others, some more reasonable, realistic, and practical than others. This one feels like it falls down a little bit, right?
I would have agreed with Kristen. Did a little research for the show, believe it or not. And there's a report from the FDIC that actually indicates that underbanked households are more likely to hold crypto. I was surprised by that, frankly.
But is that because I sat through a research seminar on why people are buying crypto? Is it because they're actually using it as currency, or because people use crypto as gambling?
I think it's both. I mean, to say that there's not some speculative investment and hope for big returns would be intellectually dishonest, right? I mean, a lot of that goes on. And frankly, I think a lot of that taints the industry as a whole.
Got about a minute left or so. Doug, can you hit the next 2 maybe?
We talk about unbanked and fees. I think the bailouts, one of the things that Satoshi talks about is these massive bailouts. The banks all got bailed out. They were considered too big to fail. And it wasn't just banks in the United States. It was banks around the world. There was only one banker in the United States who went to jail for the mortgage-backed securities crisis that we all experienced. So bailouts, and then lastly, centralized control on inflation. Dame talked about, hey, greenbacks rely on full faith and trust in the United States government. Satoshi clearly wanted to create a trustless system that did not rely on some sort of centralized institution to manage that currency, because when it's controlled by
So what we'll do is we'll take a break, come back with Doug, and you'll learn even more about Bitcoin. All that's next on Pete the Planner Show. I'm Pete the Planner.
Doug, Rule 57. You never take Mellencamp away from the people.
what?
Go ahead, Dame. Explain it.
What is that?
He doesn't
So
watch
on the radio
at
show,
all.
on the radio show, we have our intros and outros are various John Cougar Mellencamp songs. And so if we cut it short, if we cut a segment short, we always say more Mellencamp for the. We never take away Mellencamp for the people. We don't run long.
Kristen, one of the things I've learned in life is angering Dame is not something I choose to do voluntarily. But in this moment, Kristen, is his connection bad?
It's not good.
Oh, no.
I know.
You want me to
look at
hop
it.
out real quick.
Yeah. Pop off and pop
All
it
right.
on. Sorry, brother.
It's all right.
Yeah, I didn't want to tell him. Like, it's just like, hey, you've broccoli in your teeth. By the way, you're on 14.4 dial-up right now.
Dial-up is far slower.
Doug, you've been in the technology game for quite some time.
Yeah.
What did the very first personal computer you purchased cost?
I know the answer to that. It was $3,000, and it was in 1988, I think.
3,000?
$3,000, and that my uncle got it on his discount for working with GTE. It would have been more than 3,000. Yeah.
What?
Doug, I assume this is someone in your weightlifting group that's saying they're enjoying you on the show.
Oh boy, that's Brian.
Yeah. Okay.
Shout out to the weightlifting crew, Art or Strength.
I don't know what any of that means. Kristen. Oh, sorry. Dame's back. What do we think, Dame?
I don't know. I mean, you're sounding clear and not skipping like you were before. So hopefully, I changed to the different Wi-Fi network I was on. So hopefully, I'm getting a little bit better.
Replace the gerbils. We're ready to go. Doug, where does this go next? Oh, look at the Greg Gardner joints.
Oh wow.
Where's this go next, Doug?
I think we should talk a little bit about blockchain. I know obviously you guys want to hear my prediction and you want to make fun of my prediction on where this thing's going longer term. So
Snore.
And do you have some history on where prices have been the last 2 to 5 years?
I do. Yep.
Okay, let's start there.
Yep.
Get into blockchain. We won't get into predictions yet.
Yep.
But we can also talk about, from our perspectives, Dame and Christian specifically, how do most Americans use Bitcoin? Like, what is the actual utility of it all? Okay, here we go.
Our coworkers who normally do not care a lick about this show have showed up for
and
Doug
former
Doug.
coworkers. All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner Show, talking Bitcoin today. Do not turn off your radio. Don't do it. Don't turn it off. Because here's the thing. I'm not a Bitcoin guy myself. However, I do like to learn about it. I do like to understand others' take on it. The fact of the matter is, in the last couple of years, specifically, Bitcoin as a currency, the value of one coin has increased so significantly that one coin is now approximately worth 100,000 American dollars. Joining us to discuss that, of course, as always, is Kristen and Dame, but Doug Collins, Bitcoin enthusiast, which is like a trick kite enthusiast, but, with more vanity plates. Doug, what percentage of people who own Bitcoin have a vanity plate on their electric car?
I don't know the answer to that question, but I do know that my PTP BTC plate is on the way.
All right, Doug, how much has Bitcoin increased in the last couple of years?
Man, I look back at you go back to 2016 and the high was under $1,000. So 8 years ago, under $1,000. So it's 100-fold in the last 8 years.
That's around the same time, Pete. If I remember, you bought Bitcoin live on the show.
Yeah, I did. I don't remember. I think I don't. You guys, I mean, for me to say I don't remember is yeah. I think I bought $2,000 worth, and I think it was around $9,000 to $10,000 So Doug, that'd be what, worth like 20, 25 grand or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
I also bought Litecoin. Can we talk real before we go too much deeper?
Yeah.
Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency, but there
Correct.
are other cryptocurrencies. Like what? Why are there different ones? Do we have to understand the blockchain to understand why there are different cryptocurrencies?
There are different use cases. So with Bitcoin, one of the things that it's a common misconception is that Bitcoin is anonymous. It's actually not, but some of the cryptos that are out there are actually created to maintain complete anonymity. And so when you talk about crypto, it's a really big tent. There are a lot of different tokens with a lot of different purposes. And I don't know how deep I can go in that conversation, Pete, but I do want to, go back to something Kristen said earlier, like what was original intention and what's happening now. I think it originally Bitcoin was intended to be a peer-to-peer cash system, and it's kind of converted into digital gold. I mean, that's how a lot of people refer to it now. There are other cryptos for different purposes that are meant to do transactions, and they do as many transactions per second as the Visa credit card network. Bitcoin is not one of those.
Doug, do you think the excitement around this has to do with the pauper to prince stories that pop up all over the place? Like everyone feels like, well, that's aggressive. A lot of people know people who have made a lot of money on Bitcoin. Do you think that's why this is sort of exhilarating?
Certainly there's a slice of the population that sees this the same way they see the lottery. Like, hey, I could put in a few bucks and I might get lucky and, get wealthy. Yeah.
So let's do this at the risk of making anyone uncomfortable. Kristen, do you know anyone directly that has made a great deal of money on Bitcoin?
I do.
How many figures? Are we talking 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures, or more?
Less than that. I think most people
4 figures?
I think most people that I know are seeing like a quick return, but they're scared of this thing that they don't necessarily understand. They make some money and they run away from it. And then it's the coulda, shoulda, woulda, I should have stayed invested. Like we just had that conversation about you buying Bitcoin on the air. Most people in my experience are doing that very thing. They get too scared of it and they run away.
Okay, so inconsequential amounts of money, although nice to make, is what you've seen. Dame, do you know anyone who's made significant money with cryptocurrency over the years?
I haven't confirmed this with the gentleman, but I had the pleasure of knowing somebody a number of years ago when Bitcoin was still in its infancy, and this guy was in college studying to be a IT guru, and he was just begging me, just go put some money in. This is when Bitcoins were $100 or less a piece. Just go buy some and just forget about it. You'll never regret it. And I was like, I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's a video game, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't do it. And I fully believe that he took his own advice and had some coins stashed away somewhere. And I bet he's sitting on a pile.
Real quick, Dave, do you have regret over not pulling that trigger?
I mean, it's just like any other investment at that point. It's coulda, shoulda, woulda. There's investments that I regret selling when I did, and if I would have held on to them, I would have made lots and lots more money. But you never hear the other side of that coin, of the losses on the other side either. So it's just one more thing I missed out on.
Doug, you yourself are a holder, you're a hodl of Bitcoin, but you also happen to know some people who've done some interesting things, right?
I do. There was a guy, a friend of mine, man, this was back 2014, maybe 2013, when it was still, 10, 15, $50. And he's like, man, you got to get in, you got to get in. And I just didn't understand it back then. And he had a portfolio of rental properties, sold them, and went all in on Bitcoin, all in.
So can you quantify with just number of commas that you think are involved with his wealth generation since then?
Definitely 2 commas for sure. Centimillionaire, if not billionaire, is my guess.
But
Kristen made a face. Here we go.
Here's my thing with those stories though, Doug, is that the idea that along the way someone wouldn't start to do some really strategic diversification is always what gets me. Is like maybe this person did, but most people, when they get over a certain threshold of gains, they have this number in their head. When it doubles, when it triples, whatever,
right.
It's like, I'm walking away from this because I made my money.
Yeah.
Pete, do you buy that?
Do I buy that people have diversified as success has come?
No, that they say I'm only going to make this much and then I'm going to get out.
No. I mean, have you ever been in a casino?
Yes.
Yeah, we all leave empty pocketed. Doug, I mean, again, I love that you're a representative of all cryptocurrency investors today. Like that's your role on the show. So it's inherently
Great.
fair and unwinnable.
Great.
But again, if it's just an investment or it's a gamble, it's fun money, people are just going to act like they do with any other entity, to Dame's point. So Doug, where's this going? We'll do blockchain the next segment. We're going to get blockchain, but like, where's this going? We're at $100,000 a coin.
Yep.
What makes us think it's going to go higher?
What makes me think it's going to go higher?
Sure, because I said us, but I don't. But go ahead, it's you.
We've got a lot of countries right now that are considering strategic Bitcoin reserves. We've got states within the United States that have adopted legislation and have new legislation within their Senate to allow them to invest part of the funds of the state into Bitcoin to diversify their balance sheets.
Do you believe that these government officials understand Bitcoin?
The government officials, probably not. The people advising them, I would assume so. But I mean, serious countries considering strategic reserves: Switzerland, Canada, Singapore, Germany, Japan, Portugal, developed countries, right?
This is not investment advice.
This is not investment advice.
I feel like we need to throw that in there.
That's what the three of you were concerned about with me being on the show today, right? Don't say anything that sounds like investment advice.
Well, you can say it. We'll just disclaim it. But
sure.
But Doug, to your point, and you and I, of course, have talked about this off the air. But I always say, save it for the air. I gotta know, like, so with the Trump administration coming back into the White House, and with how he's talked about cryptocurrency in the campaign, it does feel like a moment before a moment. Now, don't react to that because we've got to take a break. We've got some John Cougar Mellencamp to play for the people. All this and more next on the Pete the Planner Show. I'm Pete the Planner.
I thought you were setting him up to do that again. I was like, that's so cruel.
I think my cruelty's over. The hazing's over. But I mean, it does feel like we're kind of setting up. Like there's a lot of things sort of falling into place.
Yep.
I have a question. I heard an analogy, Doug, that
should this be on the air?
We already kind of talked about it and like went past it. And I just want to make sure that Doug feels like this tracks. I heard an analogy that cryptocurrency is more like a search engine, and then Bitcoin is like what was potentially Yahoo. Like if someone was betting on a search engine a number of years ago, they would have bet that Yahoo was the search engine. And that's kind of how we collectively see Bitcoin. But Bitcoin is like a Yahoo or a Google. It is not cryptocurrency, which I think a lot of us tend to equate it to, but it's just because it's the name that we currently talk about. That analogy tracks, right?
Sort of. I mean, I don't know if I'd say it's analogous, but I would say that Bitcoin is the preeminent cryptocurrency. It's one of many. I mean, Bitcoin in and of itself doesn't represent the totality of cryptocurrency.
Doug, did you just load up your weightlifting guys to come on the show and comment today?
Man, there's Adam. Look at that. Shout out to Adam.
Yeah. He's got an extra M in his name.
I think this is going to help the show approval guys for the, I think
you take it easy. Don't tip your hand too much. One thing, here's what I want to talk about coming back. Maybe a little bit more into blockchain. Where do you think this is going? Go ahead and make your bold prediction.
Yep.
Also, I want to talk about like, okay, so let's say someone wants to like have a flyer, have a speculative investment. We'll let the CFPs talk about what percentage of a portfolio might be appropriate and go from there.
Yep. I've got some interesting statistics on BlackRock's fund for Bitcoin and gold as well.
Well, everybody trusts BlackRock.
You're not supposed to fire Damien.
By the way, this is one of the purposes behind the creation of Bitcoin, right?
Dame,
lack of trust.
I read an article this morning.
Trust anonymity. of never mind. Go ahead.
Dame, I read an article this morning about the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE,
Mhm.
which again, and I saw some of the proposed cuts for the first time, and I just have such I don't actually have mixed feelings, but I was curious to how you will view these things, because I know you believe government has a lot of waste. Actually, most people believe there's a lot of wasteful spending. It gets you very upset. And then but some of these cuts are pretty fascinating that we're seeing. Have you seen the reports yet?
If you've got a list, I'm happy to give you a live on the air reaction to
Are you sure?
some of those cuts. Yeah, bring them. I mean,
For those listening to the
First of
show,
all-
not watching, Dame is like adjusting his microphone. He is so prepared for this right now.
first of all, if you're not mad at government inefficiency and overspending, what's wrong with you?
Oh boy.
Come on.
All
I'm
right,
not
hold on. I gotta find the list here.
There was a rogue tweet. While you look, I'll say it last night. Some report given in a Senate committee or I don't know somewhere said that only 6% of the federal government shows up for 40 hours a week, 40 hours of work a week. And if you remove custodians and maintenance, it's
All right, slow down. Say it again. Say it again. Say it again. I wasn't
6% of federal government employees show up in person for 40 hours a week. If you remove custodians and maintenance employees, it goes down to 1. Now,
But that doesn't mean they're not working 40 hours a week. It means they're not physically driving to a place, burning fossil fuel. I'm just kidding about that part. It means they're still working. Are you saying, Dame, you're a remote employee? You show up 0% to work every week.
that's great.
See, wait a second.
Takes notes.
Both Kristen and Dame are remote employees. So, Dame, you're saying your argument here is you yourself are not doing effective work.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying that when you have that large of a percentage that doesn't show up to work on a regular basis, are they A, being as efficient as they could, and B, are they all needed?
Okay, so this is a report from CBS News. CBS News. Now, of course, choose to find that good or bad. I don't really know. I'm fine with it. There are $516 billion being proposed as the earliest cuts of government spending.
It's not enough. Go on.
Rookie numbers.
Doug, do you see how upset he gets on this topic?
He gets very upset.
Okay, we're going to go full screen on his face. So, okay.
Yep.
Let's go full screen, solo layout on Dame. Dame, the first one is $119 billion cut. A big one. You ready?
Yes.
Take your hand away from your mouth. I want to see the full face here. Ready? Veterans health care.
No. Why?
You know
they're
what?
cutting veterans health care?
Yeah, $119 billion to be cut from veterans health care. The VA. Dame, talk to us about government cuts. Go ahead. You're up.
It can't be the whole program. I'm sure it's not the whole VA program. And if it is, then they're talking about reallocating some of those dollars to some other private health insurance or health coverage. But there's no way they're going to remove all health care for veterans. No way.
Dame, you're up next. Here we go.
Okay.
$48 billion for opioid treatment and drug development.
Why is that wait, say that opioid and
Treatment and drug development.
no.
Separate things, treatments and drug developments.
I don't understand why the federal government would fund opioid drug development, and treatment seems like it could be done on a state level.
All right. $37 billion for housing assistance.
It seems, again, could be a state by state program.
Did I mention $119 billion for veterans health care?
Yeah, and I'm dubious on what's actually going to happen there.
Head Start, $12 billion.
State program.
Man, this is as predictable as Doug about to say that Bitcoin's going to $1 million in the next segment.
To the moon.
I'll give you one more.
Sure. State program.
State housing grants.
The cut out the middleman. Just leave it to the state.
All right.
We don't need a whole bunch of people saying, yeah, we're going to give this money back to the states when it came from the states. Just stop.
God.
It makes sense. You know, it makes sense.
You're very dependable.
Not my fault. I'm voice of common sense around here.
Doug, any
Hey.
comments on government cuts, or do you want to punt?
I'm gonna punt.
See, I told you Doug's smart.
It's not what he knows best. Let's get back to the imaginary money here.
Trying to figure out what I do know best, but maybe we'll get there.
This segment is 9 minutes and 40 seconds, Doug, just to throw you a little bit of a curveball, which begins in 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner show. It's the Bitcoin episode. Why? Well, Bitcoin has crested. It's a decent verb. $100,000 per coin. And because of that, I made a promise, and I tend to keep my promises, to have Doug Collins, a colleague of Dame Kristen and I's, on the program. He's a Bitcoin enthusiast, a Bitcoin holder, and a technology expert to help us understand Bitcoin. Doug, we're at about $100,000 per Bitcoin. Since you've been on the air manipulating the markets, Bitcoin's up about $100. Your reach is far and wide.
Yep.
Where's this going, pal? Where are we going? Where's Bitcoin going?
All right. So to start that conversation, I would say I key to the index of what the market cap for gold is. I mean, Bitcoin started as peer-to-peer cash. It's broadly viewed as digital gold, the equivalent of digital gold. So I'll just start by saying my prediction is tied to the market cap of gold. So early in November, BlackRock has an ETF for gold and they have an ETF for Bitcoin. They've had that ETF for gold since 2005 and it had just under $33 billion in assets in there. The Bitcoin ETF was 10 months old and it came in over 33 billion. So super small slice, right? Small data point, but interesting nonetheless. So for my personal prediction, I am tying to a percentage of the market cap for gold. So you ready for the big number?
I want these other two to guess first. And by the way, are you going for the end of this year? Or are you going what's your time frame?
I'm looking at 5 years from now. So we're typically you've got these crypto winners and you've got these crypto seasons where it goes crazy like it has in the last 30 days. I'm looking at the next 5 years.
5 years. All right. Yep. Kristen is the queen of terrible guessing.
That's true.
5 years. It's 100 today. Where do you want to go, buddy?
Where do I think that it's?
Where do you, and within 5 years? Yeah.
I honestly, I don't even want to say this out loud. I feel like there's at least a 5 times increase.
Okay. That's great. So we're at, just to be clear, we're at 500 or we're at 600. How's that work? You add 5. We're at 500.
Call it 500.
Damian Andrew Dunn, fan of government efficiency. What say you?
I was actually going to say 500, but I will. I don't know, that may be on the low side. It may be tack on another 250,000 in there. I think the interesting, another interesting conversation is what's the winter going to be for Bitcoin after this cresting? What's it going to pull back to? And if if we're going to throw that in there, I think $70,000 is probably where it's going to drop back to. Would be my prediction.
Dave, is this also an appropriate time to maybe throw out a disclaimer?
Yeah, it is absolutely not investment advice, regardless of what you think we are saying. This is for educational and entertainment purposes only.
Doug, I guess I owe the world a prediction. 370. I don't know. No one cares what I think. Okay. All right, Doug.
So I'm just curious, I'll give my
go.
number, but if you guys are saying 370 to 500 to 700, I'm wondering why you're not investing if you think it's the bull case is that strong.
Let's not tiptoe over the line of investment advice.
Here's my number. My conservative number is $750,000. And that assumes that if gold continues with the market cap growth of 8% a year, like it has for the last 20 years, and if Bitcoin achieves 50% of gold's market cap in 5 years, that puts it at about 750,000. But I'll put a big asterisk by that because again, with all these countries that are considering a strategic Bitcoin reserve. By the way, there was a bill introduced in the U.S. Senate this summer that sort of socialized this idea that includes the US government buying 200,000 Bitcoins every year for 5 years. If that legislation passes, I think we'll see a blow off top.
No one knows what that means.
You know
what it'll do? It'll be the cherry will run through the toaster and the
guys,
cheese will run
This is
away.
a financial podcast. People know blow off tops.
No, they don't. This is my financial podcast.
It's going to go.
A financial podcast.
It will go exponentially higher than 750. We'll get into the millions if nation states start to adopt strategic reserves. Like if the Bitcoin Act passes, China, Russia, India, whoever, they're not going to sit back and let us go accumulate 5% of this asset and not try to get in the game themselves.
We got on to more important questions. By the way, you're listening to the Pete the Planner Show here on the Pete the Planner Radio Network podcast. And of course, we've got our live stream going on Friday mornings at 10 a.m. And a live stream viewer asked Dame whether he's got a cabinet full of bourbon behind him somewhere because he's got a buffalo painting and he just holds up a miniature barrel full of bourbon. And so indeed he does. Okay, to my investment expert friends here. Mm-hmm. Doug, no offense. I meant the people with credentials, which also means not me. Kristen, what percentage of a person's portfolio should be concentrated in an asset class like this, in your opinion?
That's a really great question. And if someone is a little bit more risk tolerant, more like on the Doug side, maybe like 10-ish% is a good space to look. But I think most of us overestimate our risk tolerance personally. And I like to have a conversation more about 5. But that 5 to 10% range is where I'm generally having that conversation.
Dame.
I completely agree, but the thought that keeps running through my head in this is, does an ardent crypto believer care about how much you should have in a diversified portfolio? Absolutely not.
Okay, well Dame, you captured my feeling very well there. Let's just go ahead and put it to our man here. Doug, 1 to 10 on a scale of I'm not all in, but you are an ardent believer. Where do you put yourself on that ardent believer scale? 10 being you got a vanity plate. Where are you?
And that's a hard question to answer. I mean, obviously I'm an enthusiast. I believe in the long-term use case. I don't know. 8?
Okay, from afar, Kristen, where do you think Doug is? I mean, again, we all work together. We all know his thoughts. What do you say?
I think that's accurate. I would put him at like an 8, maybe pushing toward a 9, but I certainly would not give him like vanity plate level.
Dame, what do you think Doug is? No,
I would have gone 9 for Doug.
Really? I was going to go 7.5 to 8. Maybe it's because I just say quit talking about it. Maybe that's why I'm a 7.5.
Yeah, you don't let him talk.
I know. I don't let him talk about it. All right. So, Doug, that being said, how do you react to the idea of an ardent Bitcoin supporter or crypto supporter doesn't work by the rules of 10% speculative investment allocation?
You know, the person I talked about earlier who made crazy money, there was a point in which I said, hey, man, maybe you should take some of these profits and reallocate those profits. And he has the most conviction I've ever seen in a human. And he did not do that. And, you know, he got lucky, right? Like, nobody knows what's going to happen with crypto. Nobody knows for sure. Nobody knows what's going to happen with equities either. So, yeah, the idea of just saying, hey, I'm 100% in this game, to me doesn't sound prudent. But to some people it does.
In a moment of honesty here, Dame, are you any more inclined to allocate any funds towards Bitcoin after having had this conversation today?
Not necessarily because of this conversation, but because of something that's a development that's happened in the last couple of weeks that Doug did bring up today. And it's widespread government interest and investment into the space that I think will bring some stability to the asset class overall. That would, in my opinion, will bring some stability to it, because there's a whole argument about currency and is it a store of value, and we didn't have time to get into it today, but I think there's another conversation to be had there.
Kristen, any more inclined?
Not because of this conversation, no.
I ignore this stuff a lot. just because I got other things to worry about.
Mhm.
Youth soccer, things that are important. I feel more inclined, if I'm being honest, Doug. I feel more inclined. So can you hang out for the news and biggest waste of money of the week?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I promise you it won't be Bitcoin. Coming up next, Blom News. That's next. I'm Pete the Planner. I do feel more inclined. Now, I'm again, not investment advice, but I do feel
The interesting thing, like, because obviously I had to do my research. I didn't want to come in and just, stutter through questions.
what I do.
But this idea that it was meant to be peer-to-peer and more broadly distributed and a cash system, Bitcoin is not that. Like, it only handles like 5 to 7 transactions per second as a network. And it's really people are looking at it as a store of value. And you've got these massive institutional investors that are hoarding it all. And I don't think that's consistent with the original intent. So that puts a wrinkle in the original thesis, at least, right?
Is Doug contributor of the year now on the show, Kristen?
I mean, I feel like I've been dethroned from an education and research perspective for sure.
No, I mean, if you take away the main hosts here, the three of us, I hate to pit him against other people we've had on, but I mean, this has been some good stuff.
It has been.
We've had one viewer on the live stream literally say Doug is the smartest, coolest, most creative person I know. Gee, Christmas. That's a lot.
Love you, Megan.
Yeah. Now he's saying he loves these people. Like he's got a following.
Maybe that's how you broaden your listener base. I don't know.
Jiminy Christmas.
Yeah.
Okay. So Dame, can I ask you? I ask you personal finance questions from time to time. About once a year, I hit you up on my own stuff. What percentage allocation would make sense for me if I were to entertain this?
No more than 5.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at.
And I mean, honestly, if I were to put money into crypto, I wouldn't say I'm investing in it. I'm speculating in it at this point. I still am not sold on. I can't classify it as a traditional investment at this point. I can't, because I still don't know what it's trying to be. Doug told us it was originally trying to be a currency, digital currency for peer-to-peer transactions. It is clearly not that, because there's not wide enough spread adoption for it, and there's way too much volatility in the price to be considered for me to consider it a currency. And so if I'm going to put money into it, I'm speculating that the value is going to go up, and I'm not going to use it to go buy a pizza.
Yeah, let me get into that. We're having this conversation, Chris, and I just think like we all have partners on this show, like whether we share finances, but you talk about money with your significant other. And I can't imagine going back to Mrs. Planner after this show and be like, okay, see this amount of money. I'm going to take this out of what we've been doing for 25 years, and I'm going to move it to the bebop currency. That's I don't want to sleep on our couch.
But if it does well, you could buy a really nice couch.
You bet your backside. Okay, let's continue on. In 3, 2. Oh, hold on, not ready. Go figure. Doug, is this experience different than you thought it would be?
It's been great.
Great. I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
Whether I think you mean that or not is different, but I'm glad.
There's a little part of me that's surprised that you didn't introduce me and say, that's our time.
As much as I would want to do that, I would never actually do that to you. In 3, 2, 1. This week's biggest waste of money of the week right here on the Pete the Planner Show is the transparent brutalist speaker. Brutalist architecture emerged during post-war reconstruction in the 1950s, emphasizing materials over aesthetics. The angular forms that define the movement informed this speaker from transparent. Crafted from 70% consumer recycled aluminum and in development for 3 years, it has a pair of 3-inch tweeters, one facing forwards and one off to the side. Those are paired with a 6.5-inch side-facing woofer and a ported design to deliver deeper bass. Bluetooth 5.2 joins Wi-Fi as a wireless connection option, with the latter supporting high-res audio up to 24-bit, 192 kilohertz air. No one cares. How much does this thing cost? We're going to start with our guest guesser. Just so you know, it weighs 23 pounds and it is 23 inches high. That is a pound per inch. Doug, how much does this cost?
$5,000.
$5,000. Kristen.
This costs $450.
You will never shed that title. You will literally never shed the title of world's worst guesser. You can't do it.
Well, you got to give the people what they expect.
Gosh, you're so great at so many things. I can count on one finger the things you're terrible at, and it's guessing. Dame, what about you?
Honestly, this thing looks like something you'd see in a TikTok shop on your stream for your. It's horrible. It's brutal, as the description says. I'm going to go with $3,000.
$4,000. Dame wins because he's under, but Doug, that's a great first guess.
Absolutely.
Kristen, I'm so glad you're smart. Dame, what's in the news this week?
Robinhood CEO Vlad Tenev said Wednesday that the brokerage firm is considering expanding into sports betting some way. Quote, we're keenly looking into that space. Nothing to announce just yet, but it's so important to our customers and in culture that we're excited about it. Tenev indicated that a move into sports could take the form of event contracts like the ones the firm launched right before the presidential election. Those markets, which led users to buy and sell from each other, are different than traditional sports books where all bets are made against the house. Robinhood's stock rose 3.5% on the news. Pete, do we share?
I saw, oh my God, Dame, I saw this earlier this week and I was just like beside myself.
Yeah.
What? We're not ever going to do a partnership with Robinhood here at Your Money Line, just so you know. So I can feel confident. Go ahead and throw this partnership under the bus ahead of the time. Dame, you can't take that platform seriously at this point, right?
I don't know how you do. That's a really bad. Well, it's a really bad behavioral suggestion, and to muddle that with real investing. But from a business standpoint, it might work out really well for them.
Yeah, particularly because research supports that there is a link between people who gamble and people who invest in cryptocurrency. Yeah. So if you can't get them with crypto or other investing, let's bring sports betting into the equation, and then they're already on your app to buy their Bitcoin.
Guys, we've got our very own Petri dish on the show today. We can ask some questions of Doug, Bitcoin enthusiast. How do you feel about gambling on the ponies?
I don't like Kristen lumping the gamblers and the crypto folks. I mean, you're kind of throwing us under the bus.
The research did.
I'm with Dame. If you want to gamble, but I think commingling that with a site that offers investments makes for an unclear intent, I should say.
Well said. Dame, what else is in the news?
Let's play a game, folks.
Yay.
Yay.
Axios did a survey amongst Americans to figure out what they consider the minimum salary needed to be, quote, financially successful.
This is a trap for me. I'm going to get
by generation.
Okay.
So boomers, that they define 1946 to 1964. What is the average salary required to be financially successful
in 2024?
Today's numbers.
Okay. $85,000.
Kristen.
$78,000.
Doug?
80.
$99,900. Gen X defined 1965 to 1980. Kristen.
130.
Doug.
150.
Pete.
160.
212.
Oh,
get out of here.
This is 2,203 adults. This is a broad sample. Millennials, 81 to 96.
Can you remind me of the original question again? To say you've
what is the
you've made it?
Yeah, what is the average salary needed to be earned? Sorry, minimum salary needed to be earned to be, quote, financially successful.
Okay, millennials, my people.
Your people.
And Gen Xers were 200 and
12.
something. Well, then I just feel like I have to say 3 now.
Doug?
I don't know why, but I may go down a little bit from 200. I know that sounds crazy. I'll go 175.
Pete?
I was thinking the same thing, but I'm going to go 190.
180.
No, Doug wins
180.
again.
We're
Millennials
so
less
in
than Gen
touch.
X. Gen Z, 97 to 212.
They just want Riz.
Pete?
200.
You're
200.
all wrong. We're all poor. $587,000.
Yeah, I just want to leave the show. What? So uncomfortable.
By the way, that averages out to $270,000 for the minimum salary needed to be earned to be, quote, financially successful.
Have I been crotchety old cantankerous man on the show recently?
Not for a while.
You guys, this is why we're in deep trouble. We're like, sometimes I look at like, the kids will be all right, or the kids are all right. You know, that whole thing of like, yeah, they're going to make it. No, we're done. We're toast. We're cooked.
We're good.
Cooked.
What else, Dan?
Adobe Analytics reports that the U.S. consumer spent $13.3 billion on Cyber Monday this year, well above 2023's measly $12.4 billion, meaning that this year's Cyber Monday was the single biggest shopping day of all time. Are we back? Is the economy ready to go?
Thank goodness.
Well, what did people purchase on Cyber Monday this year? Doug, what did you purchase?
I don't know if I made a purchase on. Oh, no. I did. You're going to make fun of me, Pete. I purchased some additional batteries for my new battery backup system at home.
I complimented you on that yesterday.
That's what I bought on Cyber Monday.
That's great.
Wow.
I like it that the default is, Pete's going to make fun of me.
Oh, I have
Is that a
another one.
thing?
I have another one. I purchased carpet.
I could go for a rug.
Yeah.
Kristen, what have you purchased over the weekend?
I bought like most of my Christmas presents, everything from like dog toys to kids' toy. I mean, you name it.
Kids' toys.
Yeah, we have lots of friends with kids.
Oh, I was like, are we breaking news here on the show tonight?
Yeah, you heard it here first.
What?
No. What?
Dame?
I bought Christmas presents for Mrs. Advice, so I can't really divulge what I bought in the off chance that she's watching.
I bought these jeans. Oh my gosh, my hip. Oh, it's cramping. Doug understands and Dame understands that cramp. These jeans, and I bought did some as an underwear purchase this year for myself.
Oh,
6 pairs of new Bombas. They're not a sponsor of the show.
they should be.
They should be. I love Bombas socks, so we're gonna give their underpants a spin. This isn't awkward. All right, so let's do this. Let's end this shenanigans. Doug Collins, man, we should have done this a long time ago. I learned a lot. I really appreciate it. You're a really good format for you. So thanks for being on the show.
Appreciate it. It's a lot of fun.
Tripled our listeners. Dame, good job as always. Dame, I feel like when you and I are going to talk after the show, because I have some questions on some other stuff. Like, I feel like we're going to end up talking about this now, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Kristen, do I make a trade in the next week?
No.
To the rest of you, I'll leave you wondering, but I'll also send you good vibes because it's all that's in the budget. I'm Pete the Planner, and this has been the Pete the Planner Show. We did it. Doug, you survived.
You did.
Well done.
You
Good
did
job.
a great job.
Great job, Doug. How many
It was a lot of
meetings
fun.
did you have to cancel any meetings to get this done today?
No, I just moved one at BVA with Blake and Josh. We moved it to the afternoon.
Well, BBA.
I did spend meaningful time last night and this morning making sure I had the talk track solid, though.
Welcome to my world.
I'm not going to voluntarily come on a show and then look like a fool. So
I do it every week. All right. Anybody got anything else to say?
it was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Great. Dame, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Christy?
See ya.
Stay getting money, y'all.
See you.